Well, good morning, folks. This is Talking Point here on WESN, your content capital. Sean Michael Small here. Sans Keaton Shah, that hopefully will soon be a thing of the past. Hashtag save Keaton Shah. Free Keaton Shah. But until then, we have a lot to get into. And of course, we just had the minister's presentation of the budget, and I have not spoken to you, our valued viewers, since that presentation. Yesterday, you would have seen a replay of our large and esteemed panel that gave post-budget commentary or post-budget presentation commentary. But of course, I have a lot to say, and a lot of it probably won't be surprising, because in some ways, this budget is not that surprising. But that's what surprised me, ironically speaking. Of course, the good lady of Talking About herself will be here later on in order to give her take as well. So you'll be getting both of our initial, well, in her case, it'll be her, not necessarily initial set of thoughts, her with some time to sleep on it, as she gave some commentary the night after the presentation. But of course, we will be having a first discussion. And crime waits on no one. So alongside my take on the budget, I'll also be speaking with regards to, well, some of the more recent happenings, or rather the long-term implications of one of the more recent happenings. And of course, this heat is a killer. Hopefully it does not start to challenge the murder rate. But budget 2024, well, I don't even know, do you really call that a budget presentation? For more on what I mean by that, let's start off this morning's daily review. Well, so now the long and short is, what did we gain from this budget? Because I kept saying, if we want stuff, if we want to ask for things, we need to be prepared to give up something. And the joke is somewhat on me, because it didn't seem that we gave up much of anything. And that's because, ultimately speaking, I would have to argue that we didn't necessarily gain that much with regards to what one of the main things that was asked for, and that is more money being spent on crime fighting. It's relative. Generally speaking, quite a few ministries saw increases, right? Education saw a slight increase, about 500 million. Health saw a slight increase, about 500 million. Works and transport got a very small increase, and so on and so on. Public utilities got a very small increase. Some of these ministries got less than 500 million, or in some cases did not change at all. Social development, less than 100 million. Well, it was titled last year social grants, now it's under social development. I assume it's the same thing. Housing got a small increase. The main increase was in national security. It went from about 5.8 billion to now 6.9 billion. A 1.1 billion increase. But a lot of what this budget spoke to was really and truly a lot of short-term measures. We have $6 billion for development. That's what was said, $6 billion. And the way how the minister said it, or how he presented it, it was as though, yes, so ministers have to come now and give a plan. Okay, what does that mean? Did you not plan things out? It was a weird way to say it in a budget presentation. It was almost as though he was using language that you would expect to come from a cabinet meeting. The initial stages of what's the plan. Okay, you all bring me your proposals and we'll hash this out so that we have something to tell the people on Monday. Well, no. Instead, he uses the budget presentation as a way to tell ministers, we have some money to spend on development, so think of some things. Even if that was the plan, I don't understand presenting it that way. More importantly, outside of health, which we don't necessarily know the breakdowns are, but what was asked for were things like helping to continue in financing certain projects, finish financing certain construction projects, etc., etc. Those are long-term investments. A new hospital here, finishing a new wing for Port of Spain, etc., etc. But generally speaking, the revenue for this year is 54 billion, expenditure 59 billion. The revenue of last year was 56 billion, with expenditure of 50-some billion. Now, to some extent, that could be because the minister has used different estimates, maybe more conservative estimates for oil and natural gas prices as compared to last year. My co-host Keaton Shaw, when we were watching the budget, he found that at the very least, the oil price per barrel that was used as the estimate was a reasonable one. But generally speaking, our revenue is estimated to be down and expenditures increased. So what little that we did get in increase in expenditure, essentially we're just going to finance by a deficit. So on one hand, I was wrong. We did not have to really give up much of anything. But on the other hand, I mean, there were no new taxes, there were some new tax incentives, there were some grants given out for school books, back pay, 1.1 billion to national security. That's not necessarily the police alone. How much is going towards the Coast Guard? How much is going towards the regiment? More importantly, how much is going towards the fire service and that situation? I believe it's 80 million, give or take, for the police for new equipment, and then new recruits. More on that in a bit. But the long and short is, yeah, I don't think we're actually gaining much. So this is my initial summary take. Too long, didn't read, didn't listen. Nothing's really going to change for you for the most part, except property tax next year. That's more or less it, and maybe an electricity rate increase. This budget does not really say how, within the next 5 to 10 years, TNT's economy will be transformed in any significant way that will lead to your lives being improved. This is a lot of short-term measures here. When you are giving out back pay, when you're giving out school books grants, a lot of that just speaks to one-time payments that are short-term. It's an election budget. We have a general election that would be only a few months away from the next year's budget. So this is the election budget here. The last chance for the government to get things that will show an effect before the elections. Next year, it will be a lot of promises, but it's not guaranteed that, those promises we'll see through. Now, let's just move on right quick here. Quick thing, the THA is disappointed in this budget. 2.5 billion allocation, it's not close to the 5% that Farley wanted. Although, again, I kind of wonder exactly what was the Chief Secretary expecting. Revenue's down, and yet, and the irony is, the Minister of Finance said this himself within the last year. Not last year's presentation, but within the last year. We have to cut a lot of things, and we didn't cut you. So to some extent, I could appreciate the allocation from that perspective. On the other hand, there's a lot of questions with regards to, okay, but what's going to happen with property tax for Tobago? Is THA going to get it? I haven't necessarily heard any definitives, because the changes in local government legislation is not necessarily going to affect the THA. So what's going to happen with that? There's also $422 million that central government is spending on Tobago for its own projects, which is fine, right? It's technically in excess of the money the THA has at its disposal to help to pay for development projects in Tobago itself. That's questionable. Although the bulk of that money that central government is spending, $400 million, is for the airport, which honestly, yes, that's a developmental project. It's just that when the industry is not being managed properly around it, then I don't really see what the point of this new international terminal will be, because the new terminal isn't for us. We will still be coming through the old terminal. That will, I assume, be now called the domestic terminal, that whole thing. I could be wrong about that, or plans could change even if I'm right about that. But we don't have 3 million visitors to the island. So to what extent will that develop Tobago? The rest of the strategy around tourism, grants or loans, that's not really cutting it. Yet it's the same plan that they've tried for years, and it's almost as though they're not even shocked that it doesn't work. They just kind of throw in the towel. Well, it's not working, but we'll do it anyway because we have no better ideas. I'll leave the rest of Tobago to talk to that. The main thing for me, more police on the horizon. So a word to the wise. We're going to get more recruits next year. Does that mean that we're going to get more police now? No, obviously not. For those that think this is a good idea, just remember, it's going to take some time for the effect to be felt because, okay, they graduate. How long is the police academy? They graduate within the year. How effective they're going to be as new recruits. And here's the main sticking point on this. Here's the thing that I want you to realize. We are going to get new police. We're going to get more police, from 300 to 1,000 recruits, potentially per year. They're going to take, I believe, the convention center in Chagaramas and potentially schools in order to expand teaching facilities temporarily until the academy could be expanded. Fine, all well and good. Where are we getting these new police from? From the same place we're currently getting them, and that is from the population of TNT. And what is one of the main problems we have with the police? It's not the number, you know. We don't know if the number of police is good enough. Why do we not know if the number of police is good enough? Because too many police, and the number could be small or it could be large, but too many. However, whatever the number is, whatever you think the number is, half, less than half, more than half, too many are not doing their job or not doing their job well enough. Because I have yet to have a reasonable interaction with police within the last 5 years, or heard of an interaction with the police within the last 5 years, of someone going to a police station to report something. Literally, something goes wrong. It is almost as though you need to be very, very careful, or you need to just understand that the police officers in the station, for the most part, those are the lazy ones. That's why they're in the station. Generally speaking, when I interact with police outside the station, it actually tends to be pretty good, whether Tobago, Trinidad, what have you, right? But for some reason, you get into the station recently, I've yet to see any sort of attempt of customer service. It makes, I'm flabbergasted. And then, potentially some good news. They might have gotten this, well, they have 3 suspects. Remember, they're not convicted yet, folks. It's not proven. They were found with arms and ammunition. These are 3 suspects with regards to the Arima massacre of the Peterkin family. One of the rounds was apparently marked TTPS on it, one of the 9mm rounds. This is not the first time we've heard of national security rounds ending up in the hands of criminals. So not only do I have anecdotal but direct evidence, either that I have experienced or people that I know experienced, that they have police officers in station just there to collect a check. Not all of them, by the way, again, generally speaking, the ones I see on the streets, this is not, don't take this as the golden rule sacrosanct, but generally speaking, it seems as though the ones in the station, just ask Mr. San Fernando, He took arguing back in public to the supervisor about taking a report when it is publicly known that you're supposed to be able to report anything in any station. What kind of laziness and stupidity is that? But then on top of that now, on top of the fact that we had people, well, officers lie about the gunshot wound to PC Gilks, on top of the fact that they have officers, an investigation ongoing with regards to the 2 men falling off of a chair in a police station and ending up dead because of it, we also now have to ask how many police officers are misplacing or not properly accounting for the ammunition in their possession. So, we gotta get more officers. That's great. And there's 80 million for equipment and vehicles. And the more officers will, in theory, unless you want more people just manning the police station, would mean more vehicles. Not only have to be bought to keep the fleet up, because we can't maintain things in TNT. To be fair, then Commissioner Griffith kept warning us about the wear and tear on police vehicles. But I kid you not, within the span of 1 minute, I saw 2 police vehicles leaving Maraval in front of Cape Park Hotel with their sirens blaring, going towards the Savannah. I was like, okay, 2 vehicles going, it might be a legitimate emergency. Only to see 1 police vehicle 30 seconds later speed the other way with its sirens blaring. And I'm like, I don't know, the emergency was that way, all of a sudden there's one this way. But anyway, I have some serious concerns about the effectiveness in police service. I have some serious concerns about, okay, we might add more bodies to the pile of things going wrong. If we can't manage the officers we have now, how are we going to manage 1,000 new officers a year? And what is the actual manpower level they want to achieve? We didn't get that. We didn't get that. So what is this supposed to achieve? I don't know. I'm not confident that it's going to achieve anything, because on the surface, if things are bad, and this is not addressing the way how the police service is bad. This is just another jobs program. That, I believe, is what national security comes to. You can't be on a 3-month contract if you're a police officer or a Coast Guard serviceman. A lot of the other government jobs are now on contract. They're no longer as nice. I don't think you can be on contract as a policeman, right? It's at least going to be a contract for a few years. It's a jobs program. It's an election budget. Folks, I can hear the good lady herself, so let's take a break. When we come back, we will get more into the energy situation in the country. And of course, be careful, there's a heat wave here for the rest of the month. And the month now starts. So just be careful. The yellow level alert warning is in effect. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back and talk about WS and your content capital.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. Get everything you need to give your home that special look and feel. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. 5 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at Westmore, Pennywise Plaza Shoguanas, C3 Center Branch and C3 San Fernando. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
You gave us the inspiration to be first. We gave you the solutions that put you first. You walked with us side by side, and we continued to serve you with pride. First Citizens celebrates with you 30 years of achieving dreams, shaping success stories, and painting brighter futures together. And together, we'll accomplish so much more. First Citizens, together, 30 and beyond.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And first, a correction. The government has actually, it's 678.5 million, so that's 256 million, that they have not stated for Tobago what that money will be spent for. 678.5 million that central government will spend in Tobago. They have only given out about estimates for 422 million of that money, of which 400 million, again, it's still the bulk of that for the airport. And I just want to point out something about this budget here. It's a lot of short-term expenditure. It's an election budget. But there's two things that I didn't mention that I want to mention quick now before we get into the meat of the matter with the good lady herself. First of all, the way how the budget was presented, I don't understand how this is a budget presentation. This, to me, and this could be how it's been done all the time, right? I will not sit here and say I know and I follow the budget since I was a wee lad of 4 years old. No, I'll be honest, I have not. I just find this is very incredible that some of the same information that has been presented in the last two budgets was presented again with regards to all the backstory. And this, the format of this budget, it's very disorganized. That is to say, the presentation. And it does not lend itself to easily follow exactly what's going on in the country, right? So trying to peruse it, there's approximately $10 billion, $15 billion of expenditure that I can't tie to a ministry. Okay, 600 million is with Tobago, fine. And then there's some other projects. But even with the 6 billion for infrastructure development and the 1 billion for back pay. I can't find 15 billion. I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe that's a cushion for rainy day. I don't know where local government allocation's coming from. Is it coming from the ministry's allocation? Is it coming from other money? I don't know. And like I said, this is a short-term budget. There's a short-term things in this for the election. But I could see the good lady is ready to go, so I'm going to hold off on the other point that just quick thing, bear with me, good lady. Agriculture.
Sounding like me.
Agriculture. I said 2 budgets ago, what do we have in a rainy day in case we see a shock like what happened in COVID? And then the war happened and food inflation went up. And I'm going to say it again. We are not prepared and we have nothing in place if our food supply has any sort of jeopardy. And the Forex situation could be the next shock. That's the one that we can see. But what about the ones we can't see, like the Russia-Ukraine war? That's all I'm going to say about that. Now to welcome the good lady herself, former Minister of Finance and attorney at law and legal scholar, Karen Shishera, who has a lot to say about this budget. We're going to start off, I believe, with energy. But
today, that's all I'm going to do.
But just in general, though, I didn't necessarily want to say, because we spoke, I thought it was an election budget even before we spoke. But you had some other ways to explain it. So just give us your initial take in general, quick.
Yeah. Oh Lord, I feel like I'm in school now. Yes, and one of the things I told Sean, and I hope this will be helpful to persons, it is clear it's an election budget. Now, why is it an election budget? It's because I do not think that the government wants to face the electorate with another budget, with the same swan song that they have been singing for the last 8-9 years of they have not been able to implement. Whether they can't implement, shan't implement, there are all kinds of reasons that they will not implement. And as a consequence of which, I think that is one of the reasons you saw that it was more like a giveaway sort of thing, in the sense of a situation where your revenue take is 54 billion, 50 meant and 54.012, and expenditure is 59.209. So that's a lot. So we can conclude with the fact that I won't prosecute those what fiscal measures he gave, but it was clear the wage, increasing the wage, minimum wage, which of course has implications for inflation, but you know, that's something that probably needed to be done. The fact that he focused on the supplemental petroleum tax for not only the deep water ground, the shallow water grounds, the inland and on land, and saying that they're going to lose money doing that, but I guess things bad.
The money is small.
Yeah,
he said it himself.
Right, but what it is that all these things are indication that we're in trouble. So I told Sean, because I don't feel I got a good opportunity to address this issue on the other time that I was on another show. So I want to say to the listening public, in September 2022, the Prime Minister is on record as saying that if we do not do something about investment in the energy sector, Trinidad and Tobago is in dire circumstances. That's coming from your Prime Minister. So when you hear that, you have to look at what the bill of goods is trying to sell you, and distinguish from what they're telling you they're going to do, what they will do. That's the government that we are going to do. I even had Minister Manning say we're in the process. Oh God, how long are you in the process? Anyway, the point is, I'm sticking to energy today. There's no question that the Prime Minister had said, I believe it is he that said it, that the optimum we would like to see is 4.7 billion cubic feet per day. I don't think we've ever reached that. He said the highest we reached is 4.1. But the reason he's saying that is because he wants to expand the Point Lisa's industrial estate. He wants to go to the gas liquid. He has planned. He realizes we simply can't do the expansion without additional natural gas. The reality is that the natural gas production is 2.7 million cubic feet per day. Yes, Minister of Energy. And Mr. Kevin Ramnaran was able to get apparently more updated figures, and it's gotten even worse than that Minister of Energy, to 2.5 million cubic feet per day. So we are in trouble because we simply do not have the gas. And so where are we going to get it? And this is where we have to face facts. So not the Nancy story. Face facts. You don't have to face the facts. One of the things that they had put on since 2018, that we were going to get this Shell solar panel plan going. The reason for that is because electricity to which we are provided within our homes, and electricity generally in our community, in the non-commercial sector, comes from natural gas. And the first call on our on the electricity generation is to the domestic market. And the reality is the reason for the Shell panels was to allow the diversion of natural gas to the Point Lisas and Atlantic LNG, and to replace it as much as possible with solar energy, and so help the natural gas sector in the meantime. This was said since 2018. You heard what I said? 2018. And Shell said, you know when they got it, you know why it kept so long? According to the papers, it got it this year. You know why? They couldn't get a license. What do you say about a government that does that? And they're telling you how bad things are, and they're telling you over and over again. They're not looking around a bend. They didn't ask Justina Gonzalez what she thought. They didn't go through a crystal ball. They know that our economy is energy-based. They also know it is subject to extreme volatility. Yet they persist on one track which they cannot deliver. The second one was Manatee. And to hear the minister, yes, sorry, I always keep calling Prime Minister as a Freudian slip. To hear the Minister of Finance not only talk about Manatee as if it was a done deal, and the headline saying they green-lighted the Manatee project. Oh, when you read Curtis Williams' article, just about 23rd of September, he said they have not gotten a certificate of environmental clearance. You're not dealing just with Trinidad, you're dealing with Shell International. They're not going to go forward without that. The Prime Minister said that Manatee was coming on board in 2024. That's what he said. And in that same article, according to the article, it seems to have no people in high places, they said they have not even made a final decision whether they're going ahead with the Manatee project. Yet you're talking as though the Manatee project is alive and well, and now you have to say 2020. Why? Because 4 years have been wasted. And it may not even be wasted, because you don't even know if it will go ahead. Then you start talking about the Lawrence side, which you admitted that it made up about 11 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. The majority is on the Lawrence side. We have 2.7 on our side, right? But you're doing as though you have already worked out a deal for the Lawrence Manatee for us to get it, when you can't even work out the Manatee, and you can't deliver on time, and we don't know if you ever will. Which takes me to Dragonfield. You know, I understand the minister became very incensed that I said that I only have to postulate, just as I postulated on this show, that he was going to get a deal for a number of reasons, not because of him, but he would have had to play a part because he's worked hard, but what was going on in the geopolitical environment. But the point I made when it came to Dragonfield, the number of unregulated Venezuelans that are walking into this country as if they belong to Trinidad, it reminded me, Minister, that about 2 years ago, the person who's the Consul General, I don't know what is the correct designation, he did say, yes, we go ahead with Dragonfield, but we have to take care of the migrants. What is the message there? Read between the lines. And the fact that I was told, as I said, from a very impeccable source, that at Mount Hope, there are more Venezuelan women having children than local women. And that whole kerfuffle with the young lady, as I said, I will make no opinion on that. But clearly, it incensed Trinidad and Tobago sufficiently that she stepped down for whatever reason. So it's an indication of where we're going. So I don't know why the minister is so upset about what I said. There has to be something there. I haven't seen, and by the way, the Dragonfield is an agreement to agree. And the condition, you keep talking about what were the conditions, one of which was the go-ahead. But what was the go-ahead? 2 years for Shell to build this pipeline, conditionally. No exchange of money in kind. But that's not the big issue with Manatee. Oh, sorry, with Dragonfield. The big issue for Biden is saying he wants free and fair elections. What does that mean? Is Maduro going to allow someone else to step into his shoes? They tested him at the highest level when with the Guaido issue. Yeah. And they put what they call maximum pressure. And with all the maximum pressure, the army and military stood by him. So it failed. And we don't even know about Guaido. Do you think that Maduro, who is seen to have imperialistic tendencies, certainly trying to take 2/3 of a CARICOM country, Ghana, which we don't seem to be concerned about, from a country that is not CARICOM, is not English speaking, not part of the CARICOM region. We don't seem to be concerned that they're doing that and have a very aggressive approach to it, and they've had it traditionally with the Guardia Nacional. We have no problems. We don't have any problems with that. So if you feel that we are going to get through the Dragon Field without some concession, and it is not unreasonable for me, Minister, I didn't see your agreement to agree, but I think it's not unreasonable to believe, given the constant stream of unregulated Venezuelans coming into this country and the message that the Consul General sent about 2 years ago, that it's not unreasonable for me to believe that that's part of the deal. If it's not part of the deal, well, it may not be, but that's not unreasonable. So there goes Manatee. There goes this dream of Lauren Manatee. There goes Shell's solar panel, which just started after 5 years. And then the Dragon Field, which is an agreement to agree. And what I'm saying is that there are small pockets of oil wells, but you know that they're not sufficient. The Bray, the Cassia, and all of them, they're not sufficient. So what have you been pressured into doing and saying you're going to lose money, lose revenue? You have gone and increased the supplemental petroleum tax ceiling, which means once oil reaches a certain level, you will not have to pay this tax unless it used to be $50. In every case, it's gone up over $50. Why? Because we're in trouble and we need to incentivize. The bid round for the deep water, 3 out of 17. And Minister forgot it, if it's 19 and 4, forgive me. But however you look at it, it's bad, right? If I got that wrong. So what you are seeing is a country that is desperate, and a Prime Minister and a Minister of Energy who's reading the tea leaves and knows that we do not have the production. At this point in time, it does not really matter whether, in a sense, whether the price of oil and gas, natural gas goes up. What matters is if you have the production, and we simply don't have the production. And by the way, I just want to say, because these things were said on a show I was on, and I don't think I was, I think the panel, there were too many people on the panel, but certainly I was unable to address some things that had been said. This touting this bond, the bond is due next year. When Standard & Poor's and all those things, they look at your sovereign bond. And the minister has said it. When you look at the HSF and the foreign exchange, which has been depleted by $400 million, it just keeps declining. Economy doing well? We are negative 20% growth. And you want to talk about Latin American countries. Don't talk about them now, because I went and I have done this already, and I got it from the central bank, not currency sharer, central bank, the position regarding Jamaica, the position regarding Barbados, the ECCU, and I didn't use Guyana because it's an outlier. So I would only start from 2019. In 2019, growth, we're talking about growth, it was in Barbados, 0.7. 2020, everybody was in trouble, negative 14.9. 2021, 0.7. 2022, 9.5. 2023, 4.5. They're growing. Eastern Caribbean countries, 2019, 4.2. 2020, everybody got hit, negative 50% deficit. 2021, growth to 5.7 plus, a surplus. 2022, 8.9%. 2023 projected at 2.2. Finally, Jamaica, it is 4.2 in 2019. In 2020, like everybody else, negative 15%. 2021, they grew 5.8%. That's central bank figures, by the way. 2022, 8.9 and projected 2.2. In Trinidad and Tobago, the same IMF you want to quote. IMF is a consultation, and they got the numbers wrong with the growth. You remember that? Remember what they said? Remember how it was wrong? And because who is giving them information? Well, I can't say where they get information from. They go and meet with a number of players in the market, but they got the numbers wrong. So don't choose And the point about it, you want to compare, you have as your heading, diversification growth. Please, there's no diversification growth in this budget. What this budget is about is containing expenditure because you simply do not have the revenue. because your natural gas production is way below, and all the promises you made have not come to fruition. I want to say one last point, just in case you want to say I'm a naysayer. I want to say that why would I be so harsh in coming to the conclusion that I can't believe anything you tell me? I can't believe you. When you came in 2015, you said in 2016 property tax. Up to now, and you know, stalling.
It's coming. It's coming.
No, we coming. Everything coming. Yeah. You know, that's a serious statement to make.
It's the PNM. It always coming.
No. It's fooling. It's fooling. So then they come now in 2018 and say, oh, we're going to divide all the different types of land, residential, commercial. And we're just going to go with residential. We were ready with bills in 2010, Minister, ready to send them out, right? We had passed the tax. I mean, we were there for half a term, Minister, and yet now the new thing is local government going to collect it. They don't even have the local government operationalized. So next year, which is why they have to call elections before 2025 budget, because they're not going to be ready with the thing, because they'll have another excuse, the valuation tribunal not set up, and the local government structure is not in place, because the idea is that they would collect it and the consolidated fund would make up the difference. The TTRA, it is nothing compared to what it was intended to be. And on top of which, that Section 18, which have taken you to the Privy Council, is because when you read it, and we don't have time to go into it, obviously public servants are going to be very concerned. When you read it, you will see the level of concern. When you talk about the Gambling Commission, you say you pass it, but you have to deal with regulations, you have to do something. You still have not operationalized it. When you talk about WASA, I'm going to believe you with WASA. I have the data from when Citibank lent us the money, and there are stockpiles of pipeline all over this country that is not being used. We borrowed 1.35 million US billion. I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong. It must be billion US or TT. From Citibank. Right? And at the same point in time, you have to understand the conditions of the IDB loan. It's in tranches. If you don't deliver the first, you're not going to the second, you're not going to the third. And part of it has to be restructuring, i.e. retrenchment. Then you talk about gambling, TTRA, the property tax, the TTIFC. The minister of, I won't say which minister, finally said, I went on his site. It's never what it was intended to be. It looked like a fintech hub, and which it has now been reduced a fintech hub, which, by the way, they got permission for it about 2 or 3 years ago, and they now operationalize it. So if I seem not to and the airport in Tobago, 3 million passengers. I went and read it to him because I couldn't believe it. Then I went to CSO to see what the numbers are. And it's about the highest it doesn't cross 300,000. And many of them are not, I don't know if they're really tourists. And if they're tourists, they're diaspora tourists. But why are you building a $3 million?
It's a diaspora that's coming in, most likely on Cal, right?
Right.
It's not addressing the international traffic we're looking at is when we want Virgin to come in,
but you don't understand
or Condor to come in, or British Airways to come in.
But the point is,
we don't have the traffic.
No, we don't have. So why did you do it? The road to whatever's that thing with the Chinese. Why would you do something and waste money? Why would you do it? So when I see all this, you think I don't have confidence in the WASA. I don't have time to talk about it. Talk about it another time. The income inequality. Why don't you give us a Gini coefficient? I heard, of course, I was the head of the, I've got in trouble with calling his name.
Oh gosh. Well, I don't even, I'm not sure
of THA.
Oh, the Chief Secretary?
Yes, sorry, Chief Secretary.
You mean,
yes,
okay.
Now he was very good on Monday, and he mentioned the Gini coefficient because he wants to see the income spread. Stop telling me about GDP per capita. Tell me about how the income in this country spread. And then you'll find out that most of it going to about 5% of this country. And you care about us? So let me just tell you this. I didn't get a chance to say what I had to say, but what I will say in conclusion, I only deal with energy. I only deal with energy. But every indication has shown that they have not been able to deliver on what they have said. They have run constant, and by the way, the Minister of, the Minister of Finance, I mean, I was taken aback. Lucky I had my figures with me. He's saying since 2008 we ran fiscal deficit. I said, excuse me, in 2008 we had a surplus of 11.8%. And before that, the country was running constant surpluses. When we got a deficit was in 2009 because of the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
Right? And yet with all of that, oil had dropped to $23. We had to go back to the parliament, I think in February, right? And with all of that, you had no run on Republic Bank, you had no run on Clico, you had no run on CL Financial. And that was what was happening all over the world. So when you want to say that, oh, fiscal deficits are a thing, it started then. And by the way, in 2010 when we left, which was in May, or we lost office, the fiscal year had nearly completed, and we were nearly back to balanced budget. Budget. So after that, I can't speak for what happened afterwards. So I am dealing with energy. Mr. Minister of Energy, stop selling the country a bag of goods and stop holding on to a mistake I may have made about the numbers. It's still relevant. We don't have the gas production. You don't have a firm deal with Dragonfield. You have not been delivered on Manatee. You have delayed on the Shell solar plant and the supplemental petroleum tax. You are so starved that you have going to shallow off water to give them additional tax relief. So let us face the facts. That's why you have a budget that where your expenditure significantly is more than your revenue. And when you want to tell me what happened in Latin America, don't go that far there. And I'm not even telling you to go, I'm not even going to, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, that's disrespectful. I don't go, I'm not using Guyana because Guyana is an outlier. Yes. I use Barbados, I use the Eastern Caribbean, and I use Jamaica. All of them went through COVID, just like us. And every single one of them have had growth. And the IMF and World Bank has said, since 2015, there's been a decline in our growth by 20%. So stop trying to fool the people.
Well, and this is the point I want to expand upon because I tried to
I think
talk
I said
about
all that
this.
I really wanted to see.
I tried to talk about it and because we've spoken about it, right?
Yes.
20% decline. Now, the thing is, when Jamaica, Barbados, etc., they had their issues because of COVID.
Right.
You see, you just pointed out the figures, 5%, 8%, right, of growth. It's because your economy was artificially suppressed by a global pandemic. The recovery is going to look really fast compared to normal growth levels. Our recovery from COVID does not look really fast because it looks fast because you're reopening, right?
We haven't recovered.
Right. When you reopen your economy, the numbers look like it's huge growth. It's just because you're bringing back what was already there. But in our case, we're looking at 3% or less, which means that we have, as you said, rightfully so. It brings up the question, have we recovered? I don't think we have recovered either.
That growth that they want to talk about has nothing to do with what this government is diversification and whatever they're talking about. It has everything to do with the price of oil and gas.
Right.
Right? It had nothing to do with what you did.
Because there's no
and by the way, Minister of Energy, the reason why I can't have any confidence in anything you say, because you went on CNN, an international, well-respected media house, and representing our country, knowing full well, because it was in the papers all the time, that the train 1 had no gas, and Shell and BPTT said they were not putting more money into it, and you knew that, you had to know that, you are the Minister of Energy, it was in the papers, yet you sat down on an international forum and represented, oh, no problem, all 4 trades, and then, you know what? It's now 3 trades. So when you talk, we can't listen. When you talk, because you know why? We can't have confidence. And coming back to the bond, by the way, let's understand about the bond. Why are you going back out to the market with the bond? Because you're trying to raise money. Why are you trying to raise money? Because you don't have money. Why did you raise the coupon rate way above what is in America is offering? Because you're trying to attract investors. And you know how many of them came from our domestic market? 2%. Tells you the confidence they have in this economy. Just take that. So don't make that bond issue oversubscribed. This is selling me a bag of goods. Stop doing that to the people. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. And you have to listen for 4.5 hours. And you know why you have to listen? Because everybody who's listening for the revenue and expenditure and
Yeah,
the fiscal balance. And he
was in the last half an hour.
And he punished people, going back to things that happened, just like what you said, is all over the place, and talk about, he tried to find the worst case scenario and then compare it with the, stop doing that. Why you didn't compare us with Jamaica, right, with growth? Why you didn't compare us with Barbados with growth? They are worse off than us, you know. They're called SIDS because you know why? Their economy is almost totally dependent on tourism. And when you have hurricanes and change in the weather pattern caused by climate change, they are the more affected. So if they could recover having those kind of challenges, you know why we're not recovering? Because we don't have the gas. Mr. Minister of Energy.
Meanwhile, for development, so the public investment program is published. You can get it on the website, folks. And the thing about it is, when he said, this is what he said: we believe that capital expenditure must be maintained and expanded as this creates jobs and stimulates economic activity, thus fostering economic growth. But with regards to actually growing the economy, you know, 1 billion is already on health, housing, and shelter. So it'll create jobs with construction, but it's not going to help create more buildings, right?
And it's going to do what he wants, the election budget.
The election budget, right.
Employ
There's
people.
800 million with regards to business.
We so stupid that we don't see through it. 800 million for building globally competitive businesses, right? But then there's another 2 billion on infrastructure. Again, one of you, an economist, yes. Dr. Sajuan, she said before. One of the economists.
Well, that's why I know you wouldn't necessarily want that label, but an economist, Dr. Sajuan, she said before the budget she expected a lot of roadworks. We see 2 billion with a lot of that. Again, employment,
and
right?
At a lower level, all these people getting a little work.
But with regards to building, because infrastructure, that's good investment for economic growth, right? To some extent, right? If done well. But some of the other things where capital expenditure is going is not necessarily going to bring our economy up. And as you said, granted, the New Deal worked for America to some extent. I understand that, but
because it was a Great Depression.
It's a Great Depression. But we're not seeing the kind of investment to say the landscape will change in 5 years and we'll see diversification. We're not seeing that.
So hear what you're saying here on WSN. They're not going to 2025 budget because they have no good news. So what they're doing right now is they're spending their money on winning an election. This is an election budget. So here, you heard it? Because nothing about that budget spoke about diversification and productivity. What they spoke about is we have no natural gas, and they're trying to tell you over and over again, the National Statistical Institute, still not there. So please, people, you can go and do what you want to do, but don't fool yourself now. Maybe out of bad mind, they might go to 2025, huh? But my view is, sorry, I shouldn't say bad mind. That's not the right term. That's not the right term. I should not have used that term. But what I should say is they may want to show that she thinks she knows. Well, sure, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But 2024, election time.
And again, the investment, I question. We're not seeing the changes. But folks, we have news on the hour here on WASN, so we'll continue conversation afterwards. There's something about tourism. There's a small nugget on tourism I want to state, and we'll open up the phone lines. Okay, but folks, news on the hour next. We'll return after this.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Finance Minister rules out exchange rate adjustment. Cops warn of counterfeit $100 bills in Sandy Grande. TNT street sign in New York replaced after being stolen. And internationally, small boat carrying a large group of African migrants arrives on Spain's Canary Islands. Now for the details. Finance Minister Colum Imbit has unequivocally stated that the government will not consider adjusting the exchange rate to manage inflation. Speaking during the TNT's Manufacturers Association post-budget discussion at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain, Imbit explained his stance. He highlighted that any move to adjust the foreign exchange rate would likely trigger demands from the labor sector for wage increases, making it challenging to resist such demands. Imbit elaborated, saying, if you devalue the currency and let it move by 50 or 30%, or whatever number it is, then the labor unions will say, all right, the cost of living has gone up and inflation just hit 20%. Because you did that and now we want a 20% increase. Law enforcement officials are urging the public to stay vigilant for counterfeit $100 bills that are reportedly circulating in Sandy Grande and its vicinity. Inspector Anthony White has confirmed reports of a scam involving these fake $100 notes within the community. With the holiday season approaching, police are emphasizing the need for both citizens and businesses to exercise caution during transactions involving $100 bills. The counterfeit bills currently in circulation are crafted from the same polymer material as genuine currency, making them exceptionally challenging to identify. While no reports have emerged of these fake notes being encountered by commercial banks, authorities have reassured that banks are equipped with specialized devices to detect counterfeit currency. Dr. Amory Brown, Minister of Foreign and Caribbean Affairs, has officially confirmed the replacement of Trinidad and Tobago's street sign that mysteriously disappeared last week. Dr. Brown shared a photo of the newly erected sign at the 131st Street in Richmond Hill, Queens, New York, on his Twitter account, expressing his gratitude to various authorities for its restoration. In his tweet, Dr. Brown acknowledged the efforts of the mayor's office and other authorities, including the Consulate General, for the prompt replacement of the Trinidad and Tobago street sign. The New York City Council also played a crucial role in reinstalling the sign, and Brown extended his thanks to them for their assistance. The street had been ceremoniously renamed on August 20th. Internationally, a small boat carrying a staggering 280 migrants recently reached Spain's Canary Islands. This vessel made landfall on the remote island of El Hierro, situated approximately 380 kilometers off the western coast of Africa, this past Tuesday. Rescue teams reported that the individuals aboard the boat were of sub-Saharan African origin, marking the largest influx of migrants ever to arrive on the Canary Islands in a single instance. The perilous journey to the Canary Islands has become one of the frequently traveled and most hazardous routes for migrants from Africa seeking entry into Europe. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
We exposed 5 strangers to KFC's delicious chicken to see if any time could be KFC time. And at the first bite, the party began. We repeated the experiment during the day, during business hours, on weekends, with sunshine, with rain. And it's confirmed. KFC's flavor makes anytime KFC time. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And I just want to reiterate the point, because looking at tourism is something that I have a personal interest in, right? And also I think it's one of two areas where we could potentially diversify in the short term. But just looking at the planning investment program document and how just how the budget presentation went, right? Mm-hmm. The organization of this seems all over the place. And the mandate to frustrate, as one of our callers from Digicel always says, or is that Santa Cruz? One of our callers says, mandate to frustrate, because to try to make heads or tails of it. And then on top of that, what you point out all the time when he speaks about growth, when he speaks about oil and gas, right? All these great things seem to be happening, right? The problem is a lot of these great things were happening last year. They were on the horizon last year, and the year before. And the year before. Listen, Karen, when I said the PNM always come in, you have to understand, that's a theme song, We come in, but they never come.
But I want of Trinidad and Tobago. So I just want people to understand that that's where it's coming from. And I just, to add to that, I'm a big proponent of cultural tourism as a means to then drive down the others. And you are very right. They really spent very little time on it. It was disjointed, it was ad hoc. They mentioned, it was all over the place. You could see no thought went into it. And the reason for that is because they're really not committed to it, but they had to say it.
The thing is, I haven't heard anyone say it this year, but this budget looks a lot like last year's. And one of the things that came from last year was, where's the plan?
But give them the hospitals. Let's give them the hospital.
That's the one potentially
not only the
thing.
hospital. It's not only hospital, but the thing about the hospital. So let's be thinking.
No, we do have a caller.
Oh, you have a caller. Okay.
We have a call on the line. Sorry, caller, for having you wait so long, but we weren't ready for the call immediately. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Sorry about that.
Caller, you're with us?
Sean, are you talking?
Yes. Well, I always talk, but you're on the air. You could speak now.
Hi.
Hi, morning. You're on the air. Diego Martin? Hello? Something went wrong there. I don't understand. Maybe she can hear me. Hello? Yeah. Okay, we lost the call. Well, I don't exactly know what happened there because we could hear you, but then we stopped hearing, and I don't know if you were hearing me.
So please call back.
Please call back. So, yeah, do we have the caller back? Okay. Hi, morning. Hi, are you there, caller?
I'm not here. Hi, Sean, Karen, good morning, thanks.
Morning, hi.
I want to officially say congrats to #Keaton Shaw, the team, and the best master control for the excellent post-budget presentation. So now I'm just taking education for now, but before that, Karen, I don't know if you spoke of the $3 increase and if I'm wrong, but to me it might be helpful to a teenager with little responsibilities, but like to a parent or even with one child going from 28 or whatever to 32. Mr. Anazet said 35, he knows more than I. But either way, people need a living wage. You can't thump your chest for the increase in isolation because in conjunction with, say, the increasing variables, I don't know, isn't it negligible? And the book grant of 1,000 is a welcome regurgitation because it was here in 2000 and later removed. I checked that with teachers in case I forgot. And the promise of the textbooks, no new textbooks, for minimal changes. That too was said by your boy Sean, your ex-principal Anthony Garcia, since 2019, and by Minister Gatsby Dolly in 22 and 23, which started, by the way. So, in essence, for me, things that should have been implemented were not, and are being promised again, which pertains to the one question Derek Ramsamouj asked repeatedly to Paula Gopi-Schoon, Minister Manning, and the Alsing. Minister, do you have a timeline for this? And they give you a whole big long story like things are not going to happen overnight.
Okay,
And
Paula, I
Karen,
would just want to answer you on this, if you don't mind.
Richard Quest. Richard Quest was left kind of perplexed after Stuart Young finished, remember? And Stuart Young also said that Trinidad and Tobago, a population of 1.4 million, has really a good quality of life.
Okay, so, I just want to say, and in some ways he is right, because if you look at Human Development Index, we have hit many of those targets.
Relative to worse places, but
no. But what I wanted to say to you, caller, was I specifically said that I was dealing with energy today, and that is why I did not deal with the other issues, which I will deal with on another occasion. But I thought that the energy needed to be dealt with because that is the heartbeat of our economy, and so that is why I paid attention to it. And just one last thing, the fact that you did mention the textbooks, etc., and you didn't mention the food grant, helping children who are going to school with food, it just underscores the level of poverty in this country, rather than, so what you did say is they don't implement, and which is what I was trying to say.
One quick thing, I am not necessarily sure that the minimum wage should be a living wage for families, right? Because then it will price out certain jobs like what you spoke about, the entry level, certain very, very beginning entry level things and transitory things. So that's tricky, but again, I guess it depends on how you structure it. I don't know if they have the time for that. We have a caller on the line from San Fernando. Good morning, caller. You're on there.
Good morning, Sean.
Morning.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello?
Caller? Guys, we seem to have this recurring problem. All right, caller, you can call back. I don't know what it is. This is the second time it happened in the morning. Yeah. Right. So I'm over there.
Very knowledgeable.
Right. So again, what I said, I don't know if the minimum wage should be a living wage for families. Now, a single parent family. I mean, I understand it's a complex problem, so I'm not necessarily going to say automatically that it should not be.
No.
But then, like CPEP and URP, from what I understand, minimum wage would potentially affect them, and to some extent, I don't know. Like, that's supposed to be a transitory job. That's not supposed to be a permanent job, right? If we want to talk about a living wage, we really need to look at, okay, what are the permanent jobs for someone to have relatively long term, right? If not
I will have to disagree a little bit with you on that, because one of the reasons you look at the Human Development Index, and Norway and Sweden and those countries do score very high, is because they do take care of all their citizens. And that is what, and with regard to CPF and RP, many people who work in those programs have criminal records, and they just simply cannot get a job elsewhere. And so that what we have to be concerned about is that the economy is not growing, things are not looking good, and to have inflation rate that we have is not consistent with the kind of economy that we have, and as a consequence of which, with the increase in the minimum wage, it is going to feed into inflation, which will then eat away a lot of the gains that the minimum wage is supposed to get. But that's another story, and it's, that's something we need to look at.
Also rehabilitation. We have tens of thousands of cases. We don't have tens of thousands of criminals, I think, right? So I don't know if we're succeeding on any rehabilitation programs, and we're definitely not giving them a chance if they can't get a job. We have a caller from San Fernando is back. Good morning, caller. Morning.
And I am not hearing you, but I understand you all will be hearing me.
Yes.
I listened to this budget presentation by the finance minister, and it left me feeling worse than the day before. In my opinion, it seems to me, and I'm not going to get down into the nitty-gritty of the budget because enough has been said, and I just wait for the estimates of expenditure so I could take a look at that and then probably make a pronouncement. But what it seemed to me is that we have a government that seems not to know what to do in this situation that we are in. That is what came across to me, that they do not know how to get us out or steer us out of this. It seems as if we're in a boat, the boat's stalled in the ocean, and the captain, the chief engineer, the chief mate, nobody knows what to do. And that is the frightening thing that I am seeing going ahead, because I am worried about the other generations that are coming up. What do they have to look forward to?
Well,
and that is where this, and Trinidad people, I said to you, Sean, and we talked about this already, that the people of Trinidad and Tobago need to understand how these decisions are going to affect them coming up.
Yeah.
How these things are going to affect them. this issue where we don't have foreign exchange, or I shouldn't say we don't have foreign exchange, where the demand for foreign exchange is greater than our generation of it. We are in for a rough ride, a very, very, very rough ride. And Trinidad and Tobago, you all need to see what's happening. And I would hope, Karen, next time you come, you all try to get to because Trinidad and Tobago, the population themselves really don't know how these things, how this big picture affects their everyday. Let me put it this way: how their everyday choices when you go in the supermarket and you pick up something off the shelf, how that affects the foreign exchange supply, and this is where we need to go, because Trinidad and Tobago, I am sorry, I mean I'm apologizing, but I'm not in the government, but we are headed down a very rough road. Have a good day.
Mr. San Fernando, thank you for your contribution. It's always a very good contribution. I said from the very onset, limited time, I focused on the energy for the reasons I said, and I use that as a base to show that you can't believe what they say. They sell you a bag of goods, don't believe it. So your concern is rightly placed based on the, as I say, the best predictor of future behavior is past relevant behavior. And we have 2015 to let us know. So the matters that you have raised, I would want to do that on next week. I'll go into other crime, and I will really deal with what I know what you've said, which is a very relevant point. How does that relate? That is why I call it an election budget. Because I've heard people, man in the street, say, oh God, well, I'm glad, boy. I ain't mine, you know, because see, they don't raise gas. So they understand they're in trouble. They don't have the money. They don't know where they get any money, which is why I focus on energy, which is where they do get their revenue from mainly. And the non-energy sector gets their money from the energy sector doing well. So they're in trouble, just as what you said. And so what they decided to do is we're going to spend money, and therefore it's an election budget. That's what I try to see.
It's a spin. An example of one of the various ways the minister spin the budget, the news. He keeps saying, last year, the year before, the IMF has not changed since 2015, right? It also hasn't grown. What growth it had was gone by COVID. It grew before COVID, and then it stopped growing, period.
World
right?
Bank and IMF has the figures.
So I'm just, that's not something to say. It's been 8 years, and we've seen net zero growth in the HSF. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. If that's the best you could say about it, that's not good. We have a call on the line from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Just let me see Karen a little bit. Go, Karen, go. You had them trouble the other night. What night it was? Listen, is it a good time now to replay Gypsy's tune, The Ship Sinking? Is it a good time for that now?
Well, this is what, I had a discussion with someone. I think this is a time for change. And I want to say that on the show, I hope that this is not going to affect my being invited back, but it seemed to me that I was being cut off a lot, and I actually had to say something about it. And this is why I told Sean that I wanted today to speak about the energy, also because the minister wrote a long diatribe about me. Obviously, it hurt him in some way. The wound hurt him when he read the headline in the Express. So thank you for the vote of confidence, and what it says, it's time for change. And I'm glad that you are able to see beyond the spiel.
And one of the things I wanted to point out, and this goes in part to what Karen told me, this budget is about expenditure control and containment. Basically, they're playing defense, folks. But they're playing defense when technically they are, behind on the score. The other team is winning, and we're just trying to win. It's like TNT in the World Cup when we went, and we playing defense, and then the other team score, and we still playing defense. Okay. We don't actually have a way to win.
About my husband,
No. I'm talking about when we don't actually have a way to win the game. We just have a plan to try to tie.
No, we have a plan to win the election.
But I'm talking about the country.
When we win, then all the bad news, it doesn't matter because you're stuck with them for the other
Right, but I'm saying the country, there's no
plan
plan for the country
to
win at life.
But they don't care.
They're just playing defense, and they're trying to hold on. That's all this budget really is. And we know that because at the end of the day, can you say there's much difference between this budget and last year's
No,
budget?
what you can tell is he didn't increase the gas subsidy. Everything that they felt that people would do, and he said, oh, this, remember what he said? He said, look at all here, look at the other side. He said, and I mean, all kinds of things that are so nasty. The bottom line, somebody is calling it, is understand the other caller from San Fernando is right. They don't know what to do. They have nowhere to go. Everything they promised hasn't come to fruition. So they're praying for an election budget.
I think they're hoping that gas prices don't go up too far.
It doesn't matter what happens with the gas prices if you don't have production.
So we have a caller from Santa Cruz. Sorry, caller. You're on here.
Sorry about that.
Hello, caller.
We're sorry. It just got so heated here.
I don't know if, well, this time I can't hear anything, so I don't know if the caller is on the line.
I'm not hearing him. We're not hearing
him. We have some audio issues with calls this morning, so please forgive us, folks. If you, well, I shouldn't say if you could hear yourself because it's a delay. All right, so we might have lost that call. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack on this, but in part because, and here's the irony, I am afraid of getting my analysis wrong because whenever you see something in the budget, no, in the sense of when you see some details, right, you have to double check almost the rest of the entire thing plus the investment program, right? Because they might have another part that is tied to...
Yeah, twisting you around, but you know what it is? The bottom line, I think most people saw through it and understood that it was nothing about administration. Well,
we know it's not diversification.
No. What I'm trying to say is the person who they consider their base, they understand that, listen, he has put in measures that they thought were going to be... but they got back San Fernando.
Well, we have San Fernando.
Yeah, so let San Fernando have the...
Good morning, caller.
Sean, I just want to say this, Sean, for next time Karen comes, because I think we need a little more... Karen, I'm begging your indulgence here.
Yeah.
If it is that you can come on, Sean, if you can bring on earlier in the program, because we need to hear a lot more of what she did not get to see on that post-budget program that she was on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would beg if she could come a little earlier instead of the 12, and you could forego your daily review and stuff, because I think this is really, really important. We really need to hear more. Karen needs to dispense a little more of a knowledge on the population. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just say, that is always the station's call. But you are right that I was not given the opportunity. Now the panel was too big. I don't know whether it was... but it was...
Was the panel too big? I wouldn't say so.
No, the panel was too big. I was there, I'm sure. And I saw what was going on. I just don't want to say anything too much. As I told you when we spoke yesterday, I said a lot more to you that I will not say on the show.
Yes.
Okay, so...
But Karen, I will say this. If those who looked at our budget analysis panel, we had 3 ministers plus 2 members of the opposition plus about 8 other expert speakers in various fields. Keaton got a good cross section. We got someone to speak on agriculture, shipping, etc. All of that was managed. Now, granted, it wasn't all at the same time.
Okay.
But I just felt as though it wasn't too much people. When you were on, it wasn't so much people that it could not have been managed better.
Okay, and I'm just saying to you, no, it could not have been. No,
it could have been managed better.
No. I am saying to you, because I was there,
right,
and I understood what was going on in a way that you would not have, because I was there, and I was not the only one that made the comments, and I don't want to go further than that. But your caller from San Fernando is right. There was so much I could have said that I could have responded to when they kept on with the IMF, the thing, and the Standard & Poor's and all that, and I could not respond because I did not have the time to do so.
Okay, last call for the morning from Cascade. Good morning, caller. You're on there.
Hello?
You're on there. I don't know if you could...
Hello,
I don't think you could hear me. If you could...
So all the callers who preceded me, to all the callers who preceded me this morning, I think a number of people made the most relevant point, that the issues are big. This year in particular, I mean, they have not given us anything meaningful for a long time. But this year in particular, when it was a break or make year, this is the year when Trinidad, the 1 year that Trinidad had an opportunity to begin its own redemption. These politicians failed us. And I want to feel that this is not this shouldn't be budget day or budget night for the media. I think the media owes it to the population to dissect the diatribe that has been served as a budget and explain to the population how what has been proposed is going to impact us generation after generation to come. Yeah. I think too, Karen, you have a responsibility to explain to the population the question of income and revenue distribution in this country.
Yes.
And so that people will begin to understand how the money that comes into the country goes into the front pocket, the back pocket, the fob, the folds of the pants of a few people in this country.
Yes.
And how and why it is the ordinary little fellow out on the street, the only thing he could buy is a phone because that's the only comfort he knows and has.
Yes.
We've got to begin to talk to this population in a way that they can understand how we have been hoodwinked, how we have been conned, and how the Minister of Finance sought to con the population on budget night.
Yes. But,
so it must be no budget night.
Caller, can I just say though,
them live this budget day in, day out. Every
Caller,
day
can I
we
just
must
say
be
very
talking about the
quickly?
budget
I think a lot of
and
people
its
caught
implications
on.
and impact.
All right,
a lot of people,
yes,
I think a lot of people caught on, and I do intend to do what you
push
said.
the minimum wage up, what it means for others.
Yes, and I hear what you're saying, but I think that a lot of people did catch on, the voting voter, and what I found was untenable was that those who came from the government kept on making it about a party. And even Fazir had to say, why, everything is UNC then, everything UNC. I mean, and I thought that was, why did they come with that? You came for the country, stop that talk. So I heard what you said, and in upcoming opportunities, I will address that, but I thought it was important, given the statements of your current Minister of Energy, which something was sent to me, what I said on the newspapers, also to the fact that it is in the center of everything and speaks to our economy. I thought I needed to use the time I have, which is half an hour, to deal with that on the show, and Sean was very obliging to me. I will, however, use the other opportunity to then explain why that is so important, but time would not have allowed it.
And folks, I mean, as the last caller just said from Cascade, this is not something that we need to unpack all at once, because there are a lot of things in last year's budget and the budget before that where it was ongoing, especially as we see the lack of implementation. And here's a point I'd like to say, right? It's because the minister said, oh, we're always great, we have, investment and people want to invest in TNT, etc., foreign companies. It's like, where? Because at a time when food inflation was at an all-time high and food prices were rising, we couldn't even see any meaningful increase in local food production, right? And that is telling folks that the opportunity still was not enough for local farmers, and maybe it's because the infrastructure was not there, the support was not there.
Very true.
But the ease of doing business, there's an article about ease of doing business, opening business accounts. So what about Forex accounts?
And Jamaica's done a good job with
that. And the other countries have done their, cross their T's, dot their I's,
and
right?
tell you about that.
Right, exactly. So we have basic failings with regards to so many things in this country.
Too much politicizing in our
Too much politicizing, but also, I think one of the reasons why it's so easy to fool us is because there's so many issues.
Who did it fool though?
Well, what am I to say? They want to hoodwink and positive spin.
Some people say, say they take any food because they get it.
A lot of people in their immediate reaction was, well, it's a fair budget. Notice, just because it's fair doesn't mean it's good.
I don't understand how they can say that.
Just because it might be fair in that everybody got something, right? But the point is,
that's very short-sighted.
Just because it's fair does not mean it's good.
But then they don't know what a budget is, and therefore they're very short-sighted. All due respect to those who said that.
And I just want to reiterate the point. This is a short-term budget. This is not a long-term budget. I don't see where the capital investment in the investment program is going to lead to new endeavors and new business and revenue growth. And expenditure grew between last year and this year.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, even with the $1 billion surplus of last year, the government still owes TNTech $1 billion plus. I wonder how that's supposed to work. But
go on and on.
We'll have to. Right.
Can I just give you all a thumbs up, because I wasn't on WSN because I had made that previous commitment before, because I know WSN has been very good to me and I've been there from the very beginning, and I was very happy to hear persons give Keaton and Sean the kudos that they deserve, because they were very hard. Just take a kudos.
No, but I want to say, for election night, folks, it was Mr. Shaw. He did a lot of that work. He did a lot of that planning, and including some last-minute additions that he had to fit in.
And you were good Robin Hood.
I was just on the side.
And you were good Robin Hood.
I was just there.
You see, you don't like me calling you Robin Hood.
I was just on the side. So, folks, we have to go. I want to thank all the callers. Sorry for the audio issues, but those who were able to speak, we did hear you. A lot of good contributions today. Thank you, good lady of Talking Point herself. And we'll see about next week, because there's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And who knows what else will come out between this week and next week with regards to more details. But I want to tell everybody to stay safe, both because of crime, but also because of the heat.
And that's what I'm going to talk about.
Crime, yes. That's
related to what the last caller said.
Here's a sneak preview. And those who saw the top of the show will know, I don't think enough was spent on crime. But I'll just say that there. Right? Well, folks, be careful with regards to crime. Be careful for the heat. Stay safe. As my coach always says, make this day a good day. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Goodbye.
WESN.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the right and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it.
It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, is for all of us in public.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
They'll also discuss the inclusion of LGBTQ+ Catholics and others who've been marginalised and new accountability measures to prevent abuses.
All kinds of topics like that were discussed at the grassroots level. This very fact has disturbed quite a few people because particularly conservatives in the church say that the church should not be a consultative process. It should be and remain a hierarchical structure.
This meeting will be followed by another this time next year. Only then will specific proposals be put forward for the Pope to consider in a future document.
Now, no date has been set, but the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is gearing up for the next election. He's been addressing the annual Conservative Party conference today, where the most controversial issue is a rail line that's run hugely over budget. After much delay, he's announced that it is to be partly abandoned.
Just remember that not once, but twice, Labour tried to make a man Prime Minister who didn't believe in NATO, who would have surrendered our nuclear deterrent, and who blames Britain for every problem. Sir Keir Starmer might want us to forget about his repeated support for Jeremy Corbyn, but we never will. You can never trust Labour with our country's security.
Now, the European Union's 27 member states have today reached a deal on refugees and migrants. It concerns how to share caring for people during crisis situations and how to organise financial aid as well. To tell us what's been agreed, Armin Georgian, our Europe editor, is with us. So, Armin, just tell us about this deal.
Yes, it hasn't come out of nowhere. Obviously, negotiations have been going on for weeks. There's been a basic agreement in principle since the end of September, really. But what's happened is that the differences between Italy and Germany have narrowed, and that has paved the way for a compromise, which has today been approved at the level of EU ambassadors. So that means the permanent representatives of the EU member states who are based in Brussels. What that means is that negotiations can basically begin, perhaps not immediately, but with the European Parliament and the European Council. That was mentioned today by Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission. And all of this will be discussed at the informal meeting of heads of state and government in Granada in Spain in Friday. So it's very much a process rather than a specifically major breakthrough today, if you will.
And Armin, just remind us then what the proposed Migration and Asylum Pact actually does.
I think we have to go back in a way to the big migrant crisis of 2015 to 16, which was a big trauma for European political elites, and that's really informed all of these discussions for the last 7 or 8 years. Back then, you might remember Angela Merkel, the German leader's, her famous phrase, "We can do it, wir schaffen das," we can take in a large influx of migrants, we can make this work. There's been a big shift since those times. No European leader talks about this issue the way Angela Merkel did back then, and certainly the German leadership doesn't take that kind of approach. Nowadays, we have very much a focus on other things like security. So, for example, how to simplify and speed up asylum-related procedures, how to hold migrants at the EU's external borders for up to 40 weeks in certain circumstances. To be fair, there's also been talk under this proposed asylum and migration pact, there's been talk of solidarity, helping frontline states like Italy and Greece. That there's been talk of, making sure there are legal routes for migrants into the EU so they don't attempt dangerous crossings. But ultimately, we're in a European election year, a campaign year, where security is very, very centre stage, and European elites know that the migration issue is fuel for the various populist parties across the EU that are running in those EU elections next June.
Armin Georgian, our Europe editor. Thank you. Now, the Cricket World Cup begins this Thursday, hosted by India. They are the strong contenders to win the tournament, but will have to see off some stiff competition from England and from Australia, as Vedika Bahel reports.
It's the return of the tournament to India after 12 years. And here in Gujarat, home to the world's biggest cricket arena, the 134,000 capacity stadium will kick off the 13th edition of the Cricket World Cup on Thursday. And for India, the world's biggest cricketing market, the excitement is palpable.
When the public arrives for matches, the shirts can sell out in 2 hours. It all depends on public demand. They choose what sells.
Over 48 matches across 10 venues, the epic tournament will see 10 teams vie for one-day international cricket's most coveted trophy. After their recent victory at the Regional Asia Cup, Team India, known as the Men in Blue, remain firm favourites to win on home turf, as they did last time India hosted the World Cup in 2011. Defending champions England and record 5-time winners Australia are also top contenders for the title. But there's only one fixture that has Indian fans already on the edge of their seats, and that's India versus arch-rivals Pakistan on October 14th.
There's a huge demand for tickets in every match, whether it's England-New Zealand's or England versus Australia, but the demand for India-Pakistan matches surpasses everything. And that's the final.
Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world coming up. Tunisia is marking 50 years since it became the only Arab nation to legalise abortion, yet it is still very much viewed as a taboo and women face many obstacles in order to access the procedure. Also, a new wave of feminism is beginning to emerge in the Arab world, but just how successful will it be? I'll be talking shortly to Lina Abarafe, a specialist on women's rights in the region.
Nice!
Oh, I was just looking at her.
And a UK campaign seeking to end public harassment of women uses a powerful video which shows men making excuses for inappropriate behaviour. But first, in Tunisia is celebrating 50 years since the right to abortion was granted, far ahead of many other countries in the region, not to mention the world. Yet, despite this, conservative values have kept the procedure a social taboo, and many women turn to the private sector in order to avoid doctors who decline to carry out the procedure for ideological reasons. This report from our team on the ground.
In this clinic in Tunis, Selma has just finished a follow-up with her gynecologist after her first pregnancy termination.
There's nothing left. This is your uterus.
She stands by her choice, but she wishes to remain anonymous.
I'm still afraid of the stigma attached to this choice. Social public opinion, even people I know.
It's a fear which made her go directly to the private sector, despite abortions being free at public sector clinics.
I read a lot about the experiences of other people. Most Tunisian women who went to the public system spoke about their interaction with medical staff who weren't professional, with people who tried to change their minds or delay it endlessly.
Delays can also prevent women from taking the simpler option of an abortion pill. Tunisia doesn't allow the medication for women who are more than 9 weeks pregnant. After that, they need to turn to surgical abortion. The procedure is rarely available due to a lack of resources and staff. In the private sector, abortion is expensive, costing about 600 dinars, or about 180 euros.
It's true that it's a right. Family planning in Tunisia was truly the jewel of the Arab Muslim world. We were at the forefront of access to abortion in 1973, even before France. It's a shame where we are, here, now, and that we're regressing.
Some doctors and feminist activists continue to fight to change attitudes and raise awareness about this right. Since 2012, this organization has been training medical staff.
We've developed our trainings a lot, especially what we call the clarification of values to change the attitudes of providers and to challenge the negativity towards women.
The right to abortion has managed to survive the resurgent conservatism that followed the 2011 revolution, but it is still under threat. The continuing economic crisis of the last decade has drastically hit health and family planning budgets.
Now, it's close to 13 years since the Arab Spring began, and the hope it would lead to better conditions for all living in the region, especially women, have been somewhat eroded. But now the Arab world is beginning to see a new generation of feminists who view women's rights as part of a wider democratic struggle, and one that goes beyond class and religious secular divides. For more on this, I'm joined by Lina Abarafe, the former Executive Director of the Arab Institute for Women and an analyst on women's rights in the region. Lina, thank you so much for your time. It appears we're now witnessing another wave of feminism in the Arab world, but what makes this movement different to others?
Well, in this region, we are talking about 22 countries that are extremely diverse, economically, sociopolitically, but if there's one thing they have in common, it's patriarchy. And it's a pushback against women's rights and fundamental freedoms. Overall in the region, we are plagued by crises that show no signs of abating, wars that have gone on for generations, like Iraq, Syria, Palestine, Yemen. This region is a tough place to be. It's a tough place to be a young person. It's a tough place to be a woman. So what's happening now with this new wave of feminist movement is it is young, it is led by women and men who, frankly, have had enough. It is intersectional, it's interconnected, it's crossing national boundaries, and it is talking about all the issues that are plaguing young people: the lack of access to economic opportunity, corruption, environmental degradation, and the full range of human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Lina, now let's take a whistle-stop tour through the region, beginning with Tunisia, which is known as the birthplace of the Arab Spring. And as we just saw there, the first Arab nation to legalise abortion in 1973. But there has been some backsliding on the gender equality front in recent years. And in what way has that actually happened?
Tunisia is the leader, is our pioneer, but unfortunately, as you've said, there has been backsliding. They've removed gender equality provisions from the constitution. There's been a failure to fully implement the law that protects women from all forms of violence, which is a clear problem. There still remains a lack of full bodily autonomy and integrity. And there is even a reduction in women's participation in the labor force. There is a conservative movement taking hold. And as we heard from the previous clip, women's bodily autonomy and integrity continues to be under question.
And if we head to Saudi Arabia, the government there is seeking to reform laws to increase women's participation in society, such as lifting the ban on women driving, but also at the same time imprisoning women's rights activists. So what is the state of feminism in that country?
The Crown Prince has a very ambitious agenda, Agenda 2030, that includes mostly economic measures, but also engages women in terms of increasing their participation in the labor force, for instance. But discriminatory provisions remain, most notably in personal status codes. These are the laws that really codify discrimination, in fact, because they refer to women's most personal, intimate, critical aspects: marriage, divorce, child custody, inheritance, and all of those things being determined by religion means that women are put at a fundamental disadvantage. So there is a long way to go yet in Saudi Arabia.
And if we turn to Lebanon, and that's undergone enormous economic upheaval while also recovering from that huge explosion which ripped Beirut apart in 2020, where women bore the brunt of that disaster. Yet it's also a country that's producing some very interesting feminists, such as Hatira, a women's-led media platform.
Lebanon has been hit by one challenge after another. And this is a once middle-income country that is now 80% below the poverty line. And women and young people really bear the brunt of that. So yes, there are women on the front lines. They are fighting and protesting. They are organizing online in innovative ways. But the challenges remain. Lebanon, too, has personal status codes because of its sectarian system. And there are 15 different codes that align with the different sects, meaning that there's no universal, uniform secular law for women, for women's bodies and lives, and their most intimate decisions. So Lebanon itself has a long way to go as well.
So keeping in mind we're talking about 22 countries, will this latest wave of feminism actually succeed?
You know, I'll tell you a story. There's a young woman who asked me if I think that women's rights will ever be a matter of fact and not a matter of fight in the Arab region. And I told her, absolutely yes. I wake up every day for this fight, and they are the ones that will see it through to fact. I really believe that this is the region, this is the generation in this region that is finally going to make those changes take hold.
Lina Abou-Rafa, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annette.
And an inquiry here in France has found as much as 90% of pornographic content online features verbal, physical and sexual violence directed towards women. It also says a significant amount of violence shown is punishable under existing laws in France. The nation's High Council for Equality, who carried out the inquiry, is urging the government now to make changes to the law in order to prosecute makers of pornography. It also wants the content to be removed so as to protect those who have been filmed. And finally, here's a video that's gone viral for very good reasons. It's a powerful new campaign that's aimed at tackling everyday harassment and inappropriate male behaviour towards women and girls. The Just Don't campaign was created by Tracy Brabham, the Mayor of West Yorkshire in the UK, and her team. She's also the first woman to be in the job as well. Anyway, do take a look.
Nice. What? I was just looking at her. I was just looking at her ass. Honestly, I was just being nice.
I was just telling her to smile more. She might just smile more if I grab her.
Body is well fit. I just found the socials. I've been liking all the pics too. Just sent her a picture of my...
Big one, love! Just saying, she might like it. Just ask her if she needed a daddy. Just seeing if I can put her in her place. Just saying I could if I wanted to. Just letting her know. Just saying I know where she lives.
86% of young women in the UK have experienced sexual harassment in public. Shocked? It's not banter, it's not harmless, and it's not okay. So just don't. Find out more and how you can help bring about change.
And definitely food for thought. And that's it for this edition. We'd love to hear your suggestions for the 51%, so do get in touch via Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and you can catch our previous episodes on our website. So until our next show, bye for now.
I'm Gulliver Cragg, France 24's correspondent in Kiev. I'm forever crisscrossing Ukraine, Poland and other countries in the region to keep you up to date with all the news from Central and Eastern Europe. Join me on Live from Paris and in all France 24's news and magazine programmes.
Gulliver Cragg, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
Since the coup d'etat in 2021, the Chin ethnic minority have been at war with the ruling junta. A long, ravaging war for democracy. Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.
WESN.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I'm Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Finance Minister rules out exchange rate adjustment. Cops warn of counterfeit $100 bills in Sandy Grande.